Hey folks, some buyers are just setting themselves up for failure. I'm going to talk about that in the latest Home Prices and Insights for Peel and Durham for week ending April 12th, 2023. You know, as a buyer, assuming you're a serious buyer, chances are you've got your finances in check before you go house shopping. Meaning you've got your deposit, you've spoken with the bank, you've got your pre-approval, and your deposit plus your pre-approval amount, meaning how much the bank is actually going to lend you, what they're going to give you in mortgage money. Together, deposit and mortgage money, you know your budget, what you can pay for, or what you can buy for, let's say. So let's just say, for sake of argument, your budget is you can buy for $1.5 million. You go out, you're with your realtor, you're looking at houses, you see one you really, really like, and if it's a good house, it's probably other buyers really, really like it also. And so you're competing. You really didn't want to compete, however, that's the market we're in these days. You're competing, you find yourself in competition, and the home is listed at $1.2 million, but it gets to 1.3 on offer night, then 1.4, and you really want it, you go to 1.5. You're okay though, you're thinking, because it's within your budget still, and you win. Yours is the winning bid at 1.5 million. That's what you were pre-approved to buy for. All is good, right? Not necessarily. Once you submit the documents to your bank and say, hey, you guys pre-approved me where I could buy for 1.5 million. Here's what I'm buying. Have a look. They want the agreement of purchase and sell. They want the MLS listing, whatever other documents they're going to need. The bank's going to look at this and say, yeah, we pre-approved you. Now we want to see what you purchased. And they're going to send an appraiser to the house. An appraiser's job is to figure out what's really the current market value or the appraised value of this property. And if the appraiser writes a note to the bank and says, I've checked out the house, it's worth 1.5, you're good. But if the appraiser says, this house is worth 1.4 and sends that note to the bank's going to look at this and say, hey, we promised to give you a mortgage and we're going to honor that. But we're going to give you a mortgage based on the home only being worth 1.4 million. Even though we know you paid 1.5, we're going to base our numbers on 1.4. That difference of 100,000 between 1.4 and 1.5, you as the buyer need to make up for in cash. That's how it works. Now, if you've purchased that home and you have a condition of financing and you can't come up with that 100,000, or you don't want to come up with that 100,000 extra, you're well within your right as a buyer to back out with no penalties. But chances are you remove that condition in the heat of the moment of competing and you really, really wanted that house. You don't have any conditions. You're stuck. You're in trouble. The video I spoke about yesterday talked about the same scenario, but from a seller's perspective, the seller's risk in selling their home for way more and then it not closing. The buyer, which is what I'm talking about now, very, very serious risk, because if you can't back out of that deal, and if it's firm, it's next to impossible to back out of the deal. You're in a binding contract with the seller, and most sellers have already made plans to do other things with what they're selling their home at. You're going to have a hard time getting out of that deal. And the financial risk that you've just set yourself up with could be life-changing. If you feel this video can help somebody you know, please pass it along. If you get value from this video, subscribe. Let's get into the numbers. If you want to speak with me about your real estate situation, selling, buying, it's really simple. Below this video in the description is a link to my calendar. Click on that, book a time that's convenient for you. This way I'll know ahead of time and I'll make sure my schedule's organized so we can talk about whatever's on your mind. It's the playoffs, folks. Go Leafs, go. Here we have a quick summary. We've got in red over here is the Durham region. In green is Brampton. Mississauga is in blue. These are average sold prices. Durham and Brampton, for a couple weeks now, prices have been coming down. Mississauga, prices went up. Let's take a closer look. Let's look real close at what's happening here. Mississauga, this is for detached properties only. For week ending April the 12th, 42 detached properties were sold, which is down from the previous week. And this whole down from last week to this week in sales, it's happening clear across the GTA. In most regions, sales came down for week ending April the 12th. Can't explain why just yet, but that's what's happened. So 42 were sold. 3 of those were at $2 million or more. Average sold price climbed up $1,550,000. It jumped way up from the previous week. 1550 is 8% lower than where the average sold price was a year ago. The median price of $1,450,000 is 3% lower than where the median price was a year ago. So median price is pretty close to where it was a year ago. Now, if we kind of look at the dotted line here, the dotted line, that's the 4-week moving average. Makes it easier to spot a trend. And since, I guess, the middle of January, end of January, prices for both median and average have been going up, but they were going up quite aggressively. But for the last couple of months, quite flat. And median actually is very flat. Average sold price looks like it came down, but might be on the way up again just because of what we're seeing here. Of the 42 that sold, 41% sold at list price or more. Listings, we're not really seeing that many listings, and it's not just a Mississauga thing. Across the GTA, look, the weather's getting warmer, it's spring, prices in most cases have been going up. You figured any sellers that are on the sideline are thinking, hey, maybe now makes sense. But that's not what they're thinking, because we're not seeing many listings come onto the market. Months of inventory climbed up a little bit, sitting at 1.4. So it's up from the previous week, but pretty much in line where it's been for a good part of March or over the last 4 or 5 weeks. Here's Brampton. See what I mean? Sales down from the previous week. So 75 detached properties were sold. No properties sold at $2 million or more. Average sold price sitting at $1,210,000. $1,210,000 is 23%, which is quite a bit. It's 23% lower than where the average sold price was a year ago. The median price of $1.2 million is 15% lower than where the median price was a year ago. Now, average and median price over the last couple months has been trending upwards for Brampton. Of the 75 that sold, more than half, 55% sold at list price or more. It's pretty competitive in Brampton. Listings down from the previous week. 123 detached properties were listed, and months of inventory, although it's up from the previous week, I mean, from 0.7 we went to 0.8. It's still really low. You're not going to really see or feel a change out there when you go from 0.7 to 0.8 months of inventory. Here's Durham. Now for Durham, I'm using Pickering, Ajax, and Whitby as my Durham sample. Sales did go up by 1 from last week to this week. 60 detached properties were sold. None of those were at $2 million or more. Average sold price has been coming down for the last couple of weeks. now sitting at 1,151,000. 1,151,000 is 16% lower than where the average sold price was a year ago. The median price of 1,131 is 13% lower than where the median price was a year ago. And overall, since the beginning of March, average sold price and median prices have been trending upwards quite aggressively, actually. Of the 60 that sold, 62% of those sold at list price or more. Only 72 were listed. 72 is much less than what we've been listing for the last 4 weeks now. Months of inventory stayed the same, sitting at 0.5 months of inventory. That's extremely low, folks. Here's condos. This is for all of Peel region. 50 condos were sold. 3 of those were at $1 million or more. Average sold price came down from the previous week. $653,000 is this week's average condo sale. 653 is 5% lower than where the average sold price was a year ago. The median price of $597 is 13% lower than where the median price was a year ago. Now looking at the 4-week moving average, both median price and average price has been trending up over the last 2 months. Of the 50 that sold, 28%, so less than a third, much less than a third, 28% sold at list price or more. The condos in the Peel region, it's not as competitive as, say, the detached market or the semi or the townhouse market. Listings, not a lot of change. 83 condos were listed. Months of inventory did come down by 0.1, sitting at 1.4 months of inventory. Here's a summary of all the months of inventory. Just to put things into perspective, a balanced market is between 4 to 6 months of inventory. Below 4 months is the seller's market. When you're way down here, it's an extreme seller's market. And that's where we are. That's why prices, generally speaking, are trending upwards. That's why it's competitive. That's why sellers and their listing agents have confidence in having an offer night. So listing a property at a price kind of low, they got no intentions of accepting that price, and getting multiple buyers competing to get over the list price. And that's where the buyers trip themselves up. They get caught up in it, and many buyers who don't have the right information, that don't have the right guidance from their realtors, they're paying too much. They're just paying too much. And then come closing time, what they thought they were going to have for mortgage money, it isn't there. It's very risky to pay too much for a property. Thanks for watching. We're in the playoffs. Go Leafs, go.